Good evening, Prathamesh. Okay, very good evening, all of you. Let's start with today's session. Now, in the last session, we'll just take a quick recap. In the last session, we took two features of Java, right? One feature, that is Java is compiled and
Interpreter.
interpreted, right? So Java follows both the policy. Java is compiled also and Java is interpreted also. And last time I've shown you how that thing happens. We write a Java program, then that is given to a Java compiler. It will check the syntax. If there are syntax error, it will tell you no. So it will generate and give you one bytecode. Isn't it, guys? That bytecode is in a file form, and then that bytecode is given to the Java virtual machine, that is Java interpreter, which will line by line convert into machine code, isn't it? And then that machine code is given to the underlying system for execution. So that model you have understood. Then second feature of Java which we saw, that is Java is platform independent and it is portable. So platform independency means what? That also I hope you remember, that if your source code is same, the compiled bytecode will always remain same, irrespective where you have compiled it. So if you have compiled the code on Linux, if you have compiled the code on Windows, the produced bytecode will always remain same. Getting? And portability means
Compile
the
once.
same, run anywhere. Clear? Compile once and run anywhere. Means can I give the same bytecode which is produced by the compiler to any JVM? Let the JVM be on any platform. The JVM is on Windows, the JVM is on Linux, the JVM is on Mac machine. To any JVM you can give the same bytecode. Those JVMs will convert it to machine code and give it to the underlying system for execution. Now we have to see the third feature. Now today the many other features of Java are there, and we have to cover that features, and then quickly we have to start with programs also. I'm sure you are very much excited to write Java programs, isn't it? Like, I'm sure you are interested in writing more number of programs. But now to move to programming, some Java features are first to be cleared. Now the next actual feature, the third feature, is Java is object oriented programming language. But now, as I've studied from many of the students, that maximum students are from new course second year BCS, and they didn't had anything about C++ and all in the old course, in the previous session, previous semesters, like in first year and second year, you haven't studied anything of object oriented. I guess you only know the concepts, that too in your UML or object oriented software engineering, but as such you have not studied any object oriented programming language like C++ and all. But our BSc old course, they had C++ already in second year. Therefore, while learning Java, it was not that difficult for them. But anyway, we will just quickly cover with the features of Java. Sorry, quickly the features of object oriented programming, and then we'll continue with the next features. Okay, the third feature actually we have to see is, that is Java is object oriented programming language. But just to understand that, before that we'll quickly go through the object oriented programming concepts. What are the main concepts for which we should say the language is object oriented programming language? Before that, what I'll do is I'll quickly compare object oriented programming with procedure oriented coding. Okay, so procedure oriented programming, object oriented programming, they are just programming paradigms. Paradigms meaning, guys, approach of writing code or approach of developing programs. There are different approaches of developing program, and different languages follow different approaches. Some are hybrid, means some follow all the approaches, like Python is there, PHP is there. Okay, so some languages are procedure oriented programming. Best example is Pascal, C and Pascal. They are best examples of procedure oriented coding. Now in case of procedure oriented coding, what is done? Your problem is divided into sub problem. Whatever problem you want to solve, getting any programming problem, whichever programming problem you want to solve. I hope you all are hearing me carefully. So suppose this is your problem statement, any problem statement, and you want to write a program for it. So procedure oriented approach says what? Divide that problem or visualize that problem into smaller problem. And for each small problem, you write a sub program. Okay, also called as a function, or you can call it as a subroutine. So the approach procedure oriented programming says divide the bigger problem or visualize the big complex problem into smaller problem. And for each small problem, write a separate sub program, also called as a function or a subroutine. And then these subroutines you can call in your main program any number of times, means you can utilize them. So you can call the same subroutine repeatedly also, and it's up to you in which sequence. So it's a top-down approach. Top-down approach means bigger problem divided into smaller. Sometimes if the small problem is also too complex, so you can further divide it into still smaller problem. Like if your problem is to calculate pay slip of an employee, you can divide it as one problem, accept the data, second calculation, third printing the pay slip, and for everything you'll write a separate function and then you'll call them. Okay? So that is the general approach, procedure oriented approach. So I said, what is the main idea of procedure oriented programming? Divide problem into sub problem or subtask, and that subtask are called as functions or procedures. Means they are separate code which is doing some specific task, and then you can call those functions. Pictorially you can see this. I hope you can understand this. You have divided the main problem into smaller problem, main problem into smaller, and then every problem will have its own code. It will have its own local data. Code, local data, code, local data. Get it? But in this approach, what happens is when these functions want to share some data, they need some data which is to be shared between this function and this function. So there is only one option, keep the data global. I hope you can understand it. So this is one function, second function, third function. Every function is having its code, getting, and it will have its own local data, getting, it will have its own local data. But if they want to share something, there is no option then keeping the data global. Clear? I'm sure you all are hearing me carefully. If you have joined, means sure you want to learn something. So the data kept is global if they want to share it, and then these functions can access it. But only the problem is what? Unrelated functions also can access that data. Like suppose these two functions are related and this is not a related function, but as it is kept global, is it freely flowing throughout the system? As it's a global data, it is accessible throughout the program. So all the functions which are unrelated functions, they also get the access to that data. Means importance to the data is given less in this approach. In this approach, the data is not given that importance. Only we are focusing on writing functions. Getting? I hope you are getting it. So in this pictorial way you can see here. Okay, now normally I don't see the chat window, but I'm sure you are understanding it. And if you have any queries, you can ask me. So you can see this subprogram, 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 and then they want to share the data kept is global, and then that global data is accessible. But if any unrelated function is there, it is also able to access the data. That is the drawback. See, data to be shared by related functions. Okay, there is no option then keeping it global. In procedure-oriented coding, how they will share it? So they can share only by keeping the data as global. And as the data is global, it is freely accessible throughout the system. And if it is freely accessible to the system, you have given less importance to the data. Data is given less importance, functions given more. Moreover, real world mapping is less. Now that is when you learn object-oriented coding, you will come to know how OOP gives one benefit, that anything what you see in the real world, you can very easily implement it in programming. Anything what you see in the real world. You can see living things, you can see non-living things, visible things, invisible. Everything you can put in programming model very easily. Get it?
In object form.
In the object form, exactly. Now you have little bit knowledge, therefore you are able to do it. I guess it you are Pratik only, clear? So somewhat basic knowledge you are having, therefore you are able to relate it. But some people, those who are like BCS student, those who have just completed their 2 years BCS and now they have entered in third year, little bit difficulty. But anyway, I hope I'll try to make it as much as possible clear to you guys. Then there is another programming paradigm. Now this paradigm means, I hope you got it, the approach of writing programs, and every language follows different paradigms. Like C, C++, they follow procedure oriented paradigm. You understanding? Clear? Like old languages where they're like basic and all, they were only structured programming. Means just sequence of code. There was no entry point, exit point. Just you write a sequence of code and that used to get executed. Getting? So that is a structured scripting. C, C++ is a procedure oriented programming. Now some languages follow object oriented, and some are there, the modern languages are hybrid. They follow structured scripting, procedure oriented scripting, object oriented scripting, everything. Like PHP is there, Python is there, clear? Now object oriented programming approach is what? They try to group the related functions, okay, and their related data. Means the technique should be like that. All the functions which are related, they only should be able to access that data. The unrelated function should not get access to that data. Getting? So object-oriented programming, what it tries to do is, its main approach is based on the two concepts called class and object. So here what they do is, we are coming to it in more detail. Now just overview you remember. Here they try to group the related data, okay, and the related functions. Getting? It looks like global, but it is not freely available to the whole system. It is only available, that data is shared, but it is shared between only those functions which are within that capsules. Means here compartments you can make. That is the main approach. Here you can create a compartment where in which you will put the related functions and the related data, and only those functions which are within that capsule, they can only access that data, not anyone outside this capsule. And here the approach is bottom up. Means what we do is, we start grouping all such related functions, their related data, into the capsules called class, such class making process, and then we create copies of this, and that copies are called as objects, and then that objects will interact with each other through functions. Getting? So more when we'll start learning Java programs, once we start writing programs, it will be more clear. Now already those who are aware of C++ and all, for them it will be quite comfortable. Okay, but anyways, no issues. When once you start writing Java coding, you'll come to know it. So here the approach is what I hope it is clear. Here what we do, we group related functions, related data into the capsule. We call it as a class. Likewise, we create multiple classes, and then it's a bottom-up approach. And then we move towards the top side by creating first these classes, and then we can create objects of it, means copies of it, and then these copies will interact with each other. So here the importance is given to the data. The data is abstract. Abstract means hidden. The data is not getting freely flowing throughout the system. It is only accessible within that class. So importance to the data is given. Now importance to the function is obviously provided, but along with that the importance to data is also there. Getting? So information hiding, or you can say abstraction, is the basic principle of OOP. And anything what you see in the real world, you can map it in the form of data and function. So whatever you see in the real world, you see person, you see student, teacher, table, chair, bill, tree, whatever, animals, vehicles, anything what you see in the real world, you can visualize that real world thing in the form of their functions and in the form of their data. Getting? And then you will create a capsule of that real world thing, and then you can create multiple copies. So that is the ultimate goal. So quickly we'll just go through it. Here everything is represented in the form of class and object. So now I'm coming to it. Don't worry, we will talk about what is the class, what is the object. Now for time being, you can just remember class means a group of related data and related functions is a class. And when we'll create multiple copies of it, it becomes an object. Okay? Or you can say data type means a class, and the variables of that data type means, now these are the two copies of integer. So integer is a class, and x and y are the two copies of that integer. So they are objects. So you can say like these two are objects, and they belong to one type called as integer. So integer is a class, and copy of that integer objects. That way you can remember. Okay. So class acts like a data type, and objects act like variable of that data type. Okay. So more in that coming in the next slide. And here what we do is, in this approach, related functions and their related data, we encapsulate, means we put it within one capsule. Okay, and that capsule means only a class, a compartment, and within that compartment those functions and data only can share that. It is not available to anyone outside of that capsule. Anyone which goes outside of the capsule are not able to access it. Get it? See the pictorial way. Related functions and their related data, related function, their related data, and they interact with each other via functions. Okay, and very suitable, object oriented programming is well suited for real world thing. So whatever visible things, invisible things, now you'll say invisible, and invisible means what? So date is there, time is there, getting? Then invisible only you can have living things, non-living things,
software
everything you can
represent
put.
in a real life entity.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. That's what we are coming to it. We'll come to the discussion. So now just quick confirmation, you can tell me at least the basic idea you might have got. Okay, what is the basic difference between a procedure oriented programming and an object oriented programming? Getting? In a chat window you can quickly tell me at basic idea. Maybe you are not that, maybe perfect not, but at least some little bit idea you might have got what we might be doing in procedure oriented coding. So procedure oriented, so already you are aware with C. So in case of C, what we were doing, everything we write in form of functions. Even your entry point is also a function, that is main. So minimum code what you write is in a function. Right guys? The minimum function is main, and then you can have many other functions also. So that approach is what is clear in that case, right? So we divide the problem into smaller problem. Every small problem is having a separate function, and then you call the function by using it. But less importance to the data kept global, freely accessible, it freely flows in the system. Importance to the data is given less. Object-oriented approach is creating compartments, and within that putting related function, related data. So those who go in that compartment, they only can share that data. It is not accessible outside. So abstraction is more towards abstraction, information hiding. The outside world is not knowing how the data is getting processed and what data is getting processed. Outside world is just calling the function and utilizing it. Getting? I mean, they are not aware about what is happening within it. That is abstraction. Like when you are driving a car, so you only know how to drive the car. Means you know to use the functionality, but you are not aware about what is happening within it. Unless and until you are an automobile engineer.
Yes, sir.
Clear? But unless and until you are an automobile engineer, everything for you is abstract. You only know how to start it, how to change the gear, how to accelerate it, how to move the steering. But are you knowing internally how the gearbox is working, how the petrol generation is happening? Nothing is known to you. Therefore, that whole car is an abstract entity for you. You understanding? Clear? So I hope you got it. Now, on what the object-oriented programming is based. Okay, so I told you object-oriented programming is based on very important two entities, that is object and a class. Okay, so first what we'll do is what is an object, what is a class, that we will quickly see. Then what is encapsulation. Okay, and then there are many other features also object-oriented programming, like what is inheritance, what is polymorphism. So we'll talk about that. But my goal was to tell you that Java is object-oriented programming. So to tell you that I'm taking these concepts. Okay? Actually, normally when I teach Java, I don't teach all these things because I assume that when you are learning Java, you already know some object-oriented programming. Till now it had happened that those who come to Java, they already know C++ and all. Getting? But now first time it's happening that those who don't know any OOP, then also they have directly started learning Java. So for them, just to create a base, I'm taking these features. Okay. So now in the first thing, we are going to learn object means what. The object is one buzzword of object-oriented programming. The object-oriented programming is based on these pillar things. You can say these are the pillars of OOP. Building blocks of object-oriented programming. Means no object-oriented programming is complete without these things. That is object, a class, a polymorphism, inheritance. All that things are the important building blocks of every object-oriented programming language. Okay. So what do you mean by object? So you can say it is a software representation of any real world entity. Whatever you see in the real world entity, its software representation is an object. Getting that simple terms you can remember. Software entity that models real life entity. And real life entity means, as I said, anything which you see in the real world, which can be visible also, which can be invisible, which can be living thing, which can be non-living thing, anything. Getting? So as I said, like person, student, teacher, employee, scientist, laborer, anyone it can be. Clear? Which are living, but in that only animal category. Dog is there, cat is there. All can be considered. Okay? Some can be user created also. User defined also. So anything what you see in the real world, its mapping done in a programming world is called as an object. Now remember, these objects, okay, have two important things. One, they have their characteristics and they have their own behavior. isn't it? You can just see, anything which you see in the real world. Everyone is having their characteristic. They have their behavior. You take an animal, cat. The cat will have its own characteristic. It will have its own behavior, right? You take an non-living thing, but you can operate it, like in car. If you take, the car will have its own characteristic, its make, its model, its mileage, and so many things. Getting number of gears, its speed, and these are the characteristic. And it will have its own behaviors also. Behaviors like accelerate, put brake, change gear. You're changing the gear, you're putting the brake, you're accelerating the car. These are its behavior. So every entity in the real world, you put it in a software model, it becomes an object, but it is going to have two important things, as I said, characteristics. And that characteristics only, you can call it as properties. Okay, you can call it as a property, or you call it as attribute. Now those who know database management system, you can call it as anything. Clear? There are different names. The attribute is there, property, characteristics, field, state, anything you can call. There are multiple names, different names in English you can say. Okay, so those who are already aware with database management, and in that you know how you draw an entity relationship diagram, and then for every entity you show attributes. The attribute means only characteristic, and that characteristic, when you put it in a software model, you'll call it as a data. When you'll put it in a software model, that becomes a data, and they will have their own behaviors. Getting? And these behaviors only, when you'll put it in a software model, they become functions. Okay, so I hope you got it. Every object will have their characteristic, which in programming mapping you'll call it as data. It will have its own behavior. In programming model, you'll call it as functions. So are these functions going to contain some logic or algorithm? Your algorithms will be implemented within these functions. You understanding, guys? And within that function, this data will be getting accessed or manipulated. Okay, so functions contain what? Logic. Function contains algorithm in which this data is getting accessed or manipulated, and which in the real world also happens. Our behavior dominate our characteristic. Yes or no? In our real world, all the behaviors are going to control the characteristic. Right or no? In real world, you take anything, and is that behavior only going to control the data? Like as I took an example of car. So as you accelerate the car, you're accelerating the car, you're pressing on the accelerator button, then is the speed going to increase? So speed is the characteristic, but who has changed the speed? The behavior. Who is the behavior? Accelerate. You're getting? If you put a brake, put brake is the behavior, but by putting the brake, is the speed changed to 0? Yes. The same thing in real world, our behaviors control our characteristic. Getting, guys? Correct? In real world, you take anything, you see an animal, you see a cat, you see a dog, you consider yourself also. So you can see that your behavior is going to control your characteristics. Same way in programming, the function is going to control, or function is going to access or manipulate that data. Getting? So like behaviors control characteristic, functions control data. Okay, so now till here I hope you got it. Few examples of real world I can give. You can consider person. Every person will have its own characteristic and it will have its own behavior. Getting, guys? You can consider student. But can we say student is a subcategory of person? A person is a very big category, and in that there is one category called student. Correct? So object-oriented programming gives you the facility of categorization also. It gives the facility of categorizing a big class into subcategories also. obviously student are the type of persons only. Student belong to one big category called person. So student will also have its own characteristic, it will have its own behavior, right or no? Then we can take bank, right? And bank account. So account, maybe it is not a living thing, but it is in existence. So it is in existence. The account will have its characteristics like account number, account type, current balance, what is the balance of that account, correct? Then the type of the account, the number, in which branch that account belongs, and will it have its behavior? Yes, the behaviors are deposit, withdraw. So depositing, withdrawing are the behaviors, but when you are depositing, is the balance changing? When you are withdrawing, is the balance changing? So that's what I said. Behaviors control characteristic, means functions control data. So here when I'm calling that behavior, which is a function, which is that function? Deposit function, withdraw function. So is that withdraw and deposit going to change the data? And the data means the characteristic. Characteristics are balance. So is the balance changing? Yes. Clear? Then can there be some user defined objects also? Human created. In that the best example is stack. I hope you have studied stack in your data structures courses. In some past semesters, I'm sure in data structures courses you have studied stack. Now tell me, is stack a list of objects or list of elements, you can say? The stack is a list of elements, but that list is closed from one side and it is open from other side. And the side where it is open, from there only you can add the value and you can remove the value also from that side.
First in, first out.
Clear? Not first in, first out. You did a mistake. Last in, first out.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Last.
Right? Last in, first out. Okay. It's called as LIFO. Why last in, first out? Because it is open only from one side. No? So from there only you are adding and from there only you are removing. So whoever is at the top is the last added. Whoever is currently on the top is the latest added. But that is only the first one eligible to come out. Correct? So now here the data is this list of elements and this indicator, the top, which indicate who is the topmost value. So this indicator and this list of value, this list of values is your data. And what is the behavior? Adding the value, removing value. That is called as push, pop. So push and pop are the functions. But is that push and pop controlling the data? Yes, the list is getting grown, or the list is getting decreased. The list decreases or increases. The top automatically changes. Either it decrease or either it increase. But when the data and the top is changing, when you're calling that function, which function? Push function, pop function. Same way stack, same way like stack, there is queue. Queue everywhere you see. In India, to nearly everywhere there is a queue. Correct? So queue is again another concept where it's a list of elements only. But this list is open from both sides. From both sides it is open. Only thing is from one end you can add and the other end you can remove. So here as Pratik said, that is, here we follow the FIFO concept. First in, first out. The one which has gone first is the first one to come out. So here also there will be behaviors, that is functions, like del queue, add queue. You are adding a queue, you are deleting an element from the queue. Okay. Then similarly some invisible things like date. Now will date also have its own characteristic? Yes, indeed. It will have characteristic like DD, that is day, MM, that is month, YY, that is year. So that are the characteristic of that date. And will it have some functions? Yes. Now when you change the page to the next, okay, the calendar page, so you can see is 1 month getting added. You change the, you can turn the page back also. So 1 month is decreased. तो add month, subtract, add days, subtract days, check the number of days between two dates. Two dates are there and I want to check how many days are there between the two dates. So that are what? Functions. Getting? And that functions are manipulating on data. So what is the data? I said dd, YY, that is the data. Same way, time is there. By seeing the symbol, don't relate me with any of the party. Clear? Means don't resemble me with some of the political party. Clear? It is just a sign of time. So will it also have its own data? Yes or no? The data will be hours, minutes, seconds. So hours, minutes, second, they are the data. And will time also have some behavior? Yes. Getting? Adding seconds, subtracting two times. Between two times, how many seconds are there that I want to find out? They are the behaviors. You understanding? And that behavior is working on that data. So in short, what you got to know is clear to you. That object is a software modeling of the real world thing. Every object will have a characteristic which in programming becomes data. It will have its behavior which in programming become function. And like real world, behavior control characteristic. In programming, functions control data. Within the function, you'll write an algorithm, logic, in which this data will be getting accessed or manipulated. Few examples I told you. Getting? And already I have stated that when these objects are put into the software representation, it will have two things. One will be the data, getting, which we also call it as attributes, you call it as characteristics, you call it as field, you call it as state. Yes or no? Which just now he said like state. So why? Because it is telling the values of that object. How you will identify that this student and that student is different. One student and another student is different from its state. One will have name different or birth date different or roll number different, anything. And then we have functions. So functions means the behaviors, and functions according to object oriented programming you call it as methods, and methods contain what? The actual algorithm, the logic in which that data will be getting accessed or manipulated. Getting? I hope it is clear. Isn't it, guys? Few examples I'll show you, like car example. Will car have its own data? Yes. The color of the car, the brand of the car, the speed of the car. This speed can change. As you accelerate, the speed value will change. Gear, currently it is in 4th gear. But if you have an free road, like where there are no traffic free road, where there is no traffic in it, so obviously you will accelerate more and you'll put it into top gear. So the gear may change also. Getting? So these values can change. And who will change these values? The behaviors. You understanding? Clear? And then the behaviors, which we call it as function. Now commonly for car, the behaviors are change gear. So changing gear is also an algorithm. It's a procedure. Right or no? When you press the clutch, then the gearbox open and then the handle becomes loose and then you can put it into any gear whichever you want. Get it? But that functionality is hidden to you. The person who is operating the car, he is not knowing how the things are happening within it. The person who is using the car, he just uses the behavior. Doesn't know the algorithm of the behavior. You understanding, guys? It is abstract. Abstraction means they say that who has implemented it, who has developed that car, he only should know the algorithms. The common people who are using the car, for them everything should be what? Abstract. They are just taking the benefit of it. Getting? So if you go to Chitrai Mithai shop and you ask for 250 grams of gulab jam, they'll give you the box of gulab jam, you'll bring it, you'll eat the gulab jam. Getting? But you are not knowing how the gulab jams are made. There is a lot of disturbance. Who is kept? Pratik wants wants to ask something?
Sir, yes, understood. Only essential data is shown. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Only what is needed, only that much. What is not to be shown to the others, that is kept hidden. So algorithms are also kept hidden, remember. So as I said, when you'll operate car, you don't know how the power is getting generated. Getting how the power is internally generated, how the gearbox is getting operated. You are not knowing everything. You are just operating it. So I said, like when you buy the gulab jams from the mithai shop, so you are just taking the benefit of it. You are eating and you are enjoying, but you are not knowing the algorithm, the procedure of making that gulab jam, which Chitre shop has kept it abstract. I'm not doing affiliate marketing of Chitre over here, clear? So because it is famous and I am from Pune, clear? So cat is another example, right? Cat as an animal in living category, if I take, will cat have its own characteristics? It will have its color, it will have its height, weight, then breed also. There can be one category called breed. So many character, and these characteristics also change according to the behavior. Like if the cat is ready to jump, so you might have seen it. Many are animal lovers. Like I'm not, but I'm not violent also with them. Like correct. But there are many animal lovers. Like they might be knowing when the cat is ready to jump, it does its backbone up, and when it does the backbone up, for some time the height of that cat is changed, or maybe that cat is running for a long time, so it might have lost some weight also. The weight value may change. You understanding? Clear? So
Yes,
these
sir.
values change because of the behavior. Now the behavior is run, snore, jump, sleep. All these are the behavior, and in this behavior, this data is getting accessed or manipulated. Getting? One more a common example of a balloon, if I take. Getting? The balloon will have its own characteristics like the diameter of the balloon, the shape of the balloon, the color of the balloon, then how it is being filled by air, or you're putting gas. Through gas it is filled, or by air, or you've you've filled it with water, whatever. So different characteristics are there. Like as I said, the color of the balloon, the shape of the balloon, the diameter. So can the diameter change? Here I've given 5.6, but it will always remain that much? Not necessary. Getting? It may change, and that will be because of the behavior. Its behavior will control this. Getting? Okay. Then the type, example I've given gas. Will it have its own behaviors? The behaviors are expand. The balloon is expanding. So as you are filling the air or the gas, it is showing its behavior expand. Right? Deflate. If I put a pin on it, so the moment I prick a pin on it, it will make a noise. To make noise is a behavior. It will burst and it will deflate. Deflate means it will again become normal. So when it becomes normal, is the diameter changed to 0? Sometimes maybe the color may change. Initially it is looking dark red, but as you're filling air, it expands and it starts looking lighter in color. So these behaviors are controlling this data. Clear? Okay. So that is the approach. Object-oriented concept, that only we are going to see. Okay, how we write functions, how we put data, how in that functions we access that data. And the outside world cannot access this data easily. For them, the data accessibility is not there. Even they are not able to see the algorithm. They will only use your functions. Means they will just utilize your function. They will not know what is happening within the function. And that is abstraction. And abstraction is the very important feature of object-oriented programming. Getting? So I hope few examples I gave, few from your side I want. At least one or two. There are so many people attending. So at least one or two you can tell. Either in the chat window also you can type. It's not necessary you have to unmute and tell me. In the chat window also, let's see. At least girls 1, boys 1.
Sir, the lift mechanism.
Okay, yes. So you can say like the lift mechanism he's saying. The lift is, it will have its characteristics. It will have its characteristic, no? That is number of persons, and then the size of that lift, width, height, how much is the width and height and breadth of that lift, then the person capacity, weight capacity, how much weight it can carry, how many persons average that lift can have. So that is the characteristic. And what will be the behavior of lift? Moving up, coming down, getting or no, stopping at any point, and then it can we can say that escalate upside, escalate down, up. So that are its behavior, and very good example he told me. Clear? Then Pratik in the chat window is saying about ATM machine. Yes, okay, it will have its own characteristics and the behavior. Behavior means like you put the card and then you punch the pin, then you are accessing, checking the balance, withdrawing amount, clear, changing pin. They are the behaviors. And in the back, is it accessing some data? Yes, it's accessing your account information. Okay, so that is example. Anyone else? Mobile, Shreyas is telling about mobile. Very good. Mobile phone. So you will have that mobile size, how many inch display is there, then which company, then how much internal storage. Yes or no? Then CPU, which CPU is there, processing ability, how many processors are there in it. Clear? All that are the characteristic of the mobile. And what will be the behavior of the mobile? Getting? Behavior is starting the mobile, power on, power off.
Need to operate it.
Clear? That is, you are increasing the volume, decreasing the volume, taking the doing the call, calling some number, then taking the screenshot. So they are the behaviors of that mobile. Agreed, guys? Okay, and with that, are the characteristics changing? Yes, characteristics are controlled. Right? I hope it is clear to you. So many examples student gave. It didn't took that much time. See, like Harish told, then Shreyas, then Pratik told. Okay, so I hope you are clear with that concept. Then moving on to the next building block of object-oriented programming is class. Okay, now what is a class? Just to understand, you can say class is a collection of objects of same type. Means all the objects which are of the same type, their values can be different, but they share the same characteristics, same behavior. Their characteristic, their behaviors, they share. Okay, therefore they all belong to one category. Right? So like if we are having hundreds of cars, okay, so maybe their color is changing, their power generation technique, one is gas based, electric based, or some can be petrol based, diesel based, but anyway they belong to the category called car only. Get it? So there can be many cars, but all belong to one category. That category means class. You can remember like that. So if you all are now attending the session, 30 students, so you all are the objects, but you all are sharing the similar characteristic. Values may be different, like name, one name and another name can be different, roll number can be different, mobile number can be different, birth date can be different, but you all are sharing the similar characteristic, similar behavior. Getting? So you all are objects. You all are objects, but you all are belonging to one similar category, and that category is student, and that student category will be called as a class. Getting? So for a common man means not anyone who has not gone to school only. I'm not talking about that. Common person means who is a computer person, but now he wants to know about object-oriented programming. So to that new person, how you'll tell? So you can say class is a collection of objects of similar type. Class is a group of objects of same type. Those objects which share the similar characteristic similar behavior, their group represents a class. Getting? So as I said, like if I'm having one tree, clear, another tree, and many trees. So all trees are mango trees only. This is a mango tree, this is mango tree, mango tree. So their values can be different of characteristic and behavior. But the group of all that mango trees represent a class. Clear? And the members of that class are called as objects. Getting? So as I said, you individual, those all 30 people who are attending, you are objects. Getting? Pratik is one object, Harish is one object, Shreyash is one object. But these objects are sharing the same behavior, same characteristic. Therefore, you all belong to one category called student, and student becomes the class. Getting? So can we say like that? The member of the class is an object. Okay? And that object's group is a class. Collection of objects of similar type. All those objects whose characteristic, whose behavior is same, the group of objects of that similar type will be called as a collection. Will be called as a class, which is the collection of that object. Agreed? You can say class describes the nature of your object. Class describes the form of your object. How your object is going to look, how your object is going to behave, what will be the characteristic of that form, that object, that who tells? The class tells. So you can say class describes the form of your object. Class describes the nature of your object. Getting? How the object is going to behave, how the object will have its characteristic, all that who describe class. You can say like that, class represents the design. Okay? Class represents the blueprint. Class represents a template, and the copies of that blueprint indicates object. You understanding? Like if a apartment is getting constructed, so before that an architect gives the design of that whole flat, and on that whole floor maybe there are 4 flats, 8 flats, but every flat design will be what? Same. This is one flat, second flat here, third flat here, fourth flat here. Getting or no? Clear? So the owner may change and then the directions may change, whatever. But internal design is same. So that design which that architect makes, that is a blueprint, is a class. And from that design, 8 flats on one floor and likewise multiple flats are made. So that each flat is an object. But to make that flat, the blueprint which that architect gave, that is the class. I hope you are able to relate. Or whenever a vehicle is made, so the automobile engineer, the design engineer, he creates the design of that car. He completely decides like where the wheels will be and how the bonnet will open and where the engine will be placed. Everything he decides, the design. And then that design is given to the floor, production floor. And then production people come with hundreds of cars on the road. Multiple cars have come. So that each car which has come on the road is the copy of that design which that design engineer has made. So that automobile design engineer created a design of the car, and from that hundreds of cars are made which come on the road. That hundreds of cars are object. But to make that, the design is the class. So you can say class acts like a design and objects act like the production of that design. Class acts like a blueprint and objects act like a copies of that blueprint. Okay? Or you can say it acts like a template. Okay? Like you might have seen in bakery when you go in a tray full of cakes are kept. Getting? Heart-shaped cakes are there, or any star-shaped cakes are kept. So one tray full of heart-shaped cakes are there. But to make that, an aluminium mold is there. A mold is the aluminium mold. That mold they use to make that tray full of cakes. So tray full of cakes are created. Okay, so that cakes are objects. But to make that cake, the mold which they used, that is the class. I hope it is clear to you, right? So in programming terminology, you can relate like this. Class acts like a data type, okay, and objects act like a variable of that data type. Carefully hear, and I'm sure those who are attending, they're carefully hearing it. Getting? Those who don't join or those who later attend it on the YouTube, that is different case. Now those who have joined means you are really hearing me carefully, right or no? So what I said, if you do an analogy in the programming, you can say the data type means the class. Okay? So class corresponds to data type. But is it like a user defined data type? Human created, programmer created. Correct? And the variables of that data type, when you'll create variable of that type, so that variables will be called as a object. Correct? And you know variables take space, so obviously objects will take space. Who occupy memory? Memory. Objects take memory. Okay? Class one time only, one time it will take the space, okay, but it's not duplicated again. Who will get duplicated? Objects, and therefore objects take space. Clear? So when I write integer x and y, so according to the creator of C++, C++ is created by Bijan Strastrup. Clear? So Bijan Strastrup, when he created C++, he says visualize everything as an object, okay, and the type to which they belong, visualize it as a class. So int will be called as a class and x and y will be called as an object. And similarly, if you have created cat, a class cat, and now I'm having two cats, one is a money and another is a kitty. Getting? So is kitty and money copies? There are two copies of this cat, category cat. Or can we say money and kitty are belonging to this category cat? Yes. So these two are sharing the characteristic, sharing the behavior. Values may be different. Weight may be different, height may be different, but properties are same. The values are different. Correct? So now they both will be called as object and the category to which they belong will be called as a class. Okay? So I hope in a basic way I have tried to tell you. So class, collection of objects of same type. You can say all the objects which share the similar characteristics, similar behavior, their group is called as a class. Okay? Then class always tells the nature of your object, the form of the object, how the object will look. Correct? You can relate it at very school level. Some stencils, plastic stencil used to come. I'm sure you might have used, in which different shapes used to be there. Getting star shape, diamond shape and all. And now you have a very big card sheet. Getting? So now what I'm doing is I'm placing the stencil here and doing marking with the pencil, lot of circles. I'm keeping the stencil on it, marking on the card sheet, and then by scissors I'm cutting it. So now I'm getting many circles from this card sheet. So are these circles objects? Correct? But to make that circle, we use this stencil. So that stencil will be called as a class because it is describing the form or the nature of your object. Right, guys? Clear? Can we say it is a blueprint? Can we say it is a design? Can we say it is a template? Okay, class and objects are production of that blueprint. Getting clear? And you can relate it like that. Okay, all class acts like a user defined data type in which there will be data, in which there will be functions. Okay, and then we will create copies of that data type, and that copies will call as object. Okay, always here what I'm saying, the copies are objects, and copy of what you are doing, that is class. Correct? So always remember, class acts like a data type, and the copies of that data type are objects, and objects always take memory. So copy is also called as an instance. You call it as instance or you call it as copy. Get it? And how you'll relate it with the programming thing, I said analogous to data type. So data type means class, and the variables of that data type are called as objects. Okay, clear? And always who take memory? Class will take, but only once when it gets loaded in the memory. The code when come in the memory once only. Therefore we say repeated memory, who doesn't take? Class. Only who take memory? Objects. Getting clear? Just here pictorially I have shown with one example. This is common thing which you might have observed at home also. When mom makes some cookies, when mom is going to make some cookies, so she prepares one dough of wheat flour or whatever it is. Clear? So wheat flour we call it as. So what we do is we create the dough, then through a roller, you have roller in Marathi latna we call it as. So through the roller she spreads it, and then she is having such mold. Getting? She is having a mold, and that mold she press on it, and then one by one she picks it and keeps it aside on a tray. Picks it and aside on a tray, and then she puts that tray in a microwave oven for baking. Is it right? So what that mold she has used is a class, and from that mold, when you got this hundreds of or tray full of cookies, they are your objects. Can you relate it? Yes or no? Instead of that, you can say like when in summer May season there was a season of Amras and Puri. Getting? So Amras was made, but Puri was mandatory. Clear? So when she used to make Puri, so that time also that dough she used to spread with a roller, and then you had one steel bowl. So she used to press that and create lot of puris. Na? Yes or no? So same thing here I am trying to show. So when you pick it and keep aside, pick and keep aside. So all these are the objects, but they all belong to one similar category, and that is class. Why? Because they all follow this design. Getting? This mold. Same way we can take example of car. The car design is made by the design engineer, but using that design many cars are created. Getting? So they may have the fuel system may be different, or their mileage may be different, or they can have colors different. So values change. Getting? But they all are copies of this one design. So these copies are object and the design is the class. Agreed, guys? Okay. So just quick confirmation you can give me. What do you think? Okay, Pratik is saying something. Then we can say in simple words, class is collection of object of same type. Clear? And those objects which are belonging to that, they all share the same characteristic. Yes, agreed. Okay? Okay. Many Tejas and Sanket and Smita, they all are saying yes. Good. Good. Very good. So that basic concept is clear. Now coming to the concept called encapsulation. Now in very simple terms you can remember, encapsulation means process of creating class. Getting? The process of creating class means putting the related data, related functions. Getting? There are some related functions and the related data within one entity, or you can say within one capsule. Okay, and those who are within the capsule, they only are having access to each other. The outside world is having everything abstract. They can just call these functions and take the benefit, but the outside world is not knowing what is happening within it. means the algorithm is hidden. Even the data is also not accessible to the outside world. It is only accessible within this function. So that is abstraction. And encapsulation always leads to abstraction. We do encapsulation for that only, to achieve abstraction. And achieving abstraction is the main goal of object-oriented programming. Object-oriented programming mainly focuses on maximum level abstraction. They say the outside world should not have access to the data directly. And even the outside world should not be able to see the logic. The outside world should only take the benefit of it. I said, like, we should be able to only utilize the car. We know how to change, how to accelerate, how to start, but we are not knowing any internal mechanism of that car. Correct? And how the data in the car is processed and how the functionalities are happening within the car, they are abstract for us. You understanding? Many times the same thing applicable to your cell phone also. You know how to operate the cell phone, but you don't know what is happening within the cell phone. Yes or no? Unless and until you are from that part, means you are in the making of that cell phone, or you are in the making of the applications of that cell phone, but common man is just using that cell phone. Okay? The process of bundling related data and related function into one capsule is called as encapsulation. Now it is related to normal capsules also. Capsules when we consume, so unless and until you forcibly break it, getting, you don't know what is there. Normally everything what is there in the capsule we don't know. We just consume it and we take the benefit of it. We eat that capsule, we get the benefit of it, getting, but we are not aware about what is there within it. Clear? Same mechanism. So I hope you got it. What is encapsulation? The encapsulation is the process of binding related data and the related functions. Related data, related function. Like you have decided to implement stack. So in that you will put functions of stack only and data of stack only. In that you will not add the functions of queue. It is meaningless. Correct? So only the functions of stack, the data of stack. You group it into one single entity and that is called as class, and the process of making this class is called encapsulation. And encapsulation automatically leads to, encapsulation is automatically leading to what? Or from encapsulation what we are trying to achieve?
We can hide sensitive data from user.
Yes, yes, clear. That is called as a very technical word.
Private.
No, that is from the programming aspect. But a common word is what? Very good. Abstraction. Clear? Abstraction. Abstraction means what? Hiding certain details from the outside world. Okay, so can we say car is abstract for you people, bike is abstract for you people, phone is abstract for you people? Yes or no? Means you know the data, you know the behaviors, but you cannot control it. You are just using it. You know to use the behavior. You take a TV, so TV's characteristic, TV will have its behavior, but a common person can just operate the TV. What is happening within that TV is not known. So algorithms are not known to you people. Algorithms are kept hidden. And even the data also they have tried to keep it hidden. They are saying it should not be freely flowing throughout the system. Saying, which happens in procedure-oriented coding. In procedure-oriented coding, the data is kept global and that global data easily flows throughout the system. Correct, no? Clear? So I hope the concept is clear. Now, actually there are many more building blocks of OOP. Object-oriented programming is having some 2-3 more building blocks, like what is inheritance, what is polymorphism. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll tell you all that when we'll come to those topics in Java. Like in Java, we'll come to inheritance. In Java, we'll be learning about polymorphism. So that time I'll tell you. But polymorphism, inheritance, they are also the building blocks of your object-oriented programming. Getting clear? Now, just I'll move to the features of Java, which was our main goal. Actually, we had started with the topic features of Java, in which two features we studied. The third feature we wanted to learn, but in that the concept object oriented came, and then I realized that you guys don't know anything about C++. Therefore, quickly the main features I told. What is a class? What is object? What do you mean by encapsulation? What do you mean by abstraction? Abstraction meaning keeping certain things hidden and making only the relevant things visible to the outside world. Right? So abstraction, and then few more are there, as I said, inheritance, polymorphism. They are also OOP features only, guys. Okay. But for time being, we'll keep that extra features. Later, when we'll come to Java appropriate topic, we'll learn that too again. Now I'll just tell you the third feature, that Java is object-oriented programming language. Okay. Now when we'll say Java is object-oriented programming, means does it follow object-oriented programming paradigm? Yes. Getting? Means in Java, everything will be in the form of class and a object. Okay. But just remember, some languages are true object-oriented and some are pure object-oriented. Like Python is a pure object. Okay. C# and all, they are all pure object. But Java is just a true object-oriented programming. Now you'll say, what is the main difference? I'll come to it, don't worry. It will be a little bit confusing. Now just remember, Java is a true object-oriented programming language. Meaning, in Java, everything is in the form of a class and an object. Correct? And speciality in Java is, even your entry point, that is main, is also part of a class. Getting? You'll write class XYZ. Within that, you will put your data. Just now we saw, no? Class is a encapsulation of related data and related functions, which we call it as method. Now, function will contain what? Logic. Function will contain algorithm, in which this data will be getting what? Accessed. This data is getting accessed or manipulated in this methods, and methods contain the logic. It can be simple logic to any complicated logic. Correct? So class is an encapsulation of data functions, that is method, and in that only there is main as well. And I hope you know, main is the entry point. The life start with main. So every application of Java will start enjoying its life from main, and it will complete its journey with main only. Getting? So it starts enjoying its life from main. Meantime, it may go to USA, it may go to UK, it may go to Switzerland, clear? And it may come back to main, and when the work is over, it goes back again to its controlling authority, that is JVM. Because JVM is responsible to start and complete. Means all your Java programs are under the control of JVM. So what I said, the entry point, that is main, is also part of the class, which is not in C++. Now you already don't know C++. So in C++, main is never written inside class. It is written outside. Here they say in Java, not a single line of code you have to write outside class. Whole code you have to put within the class only. Getting? Clear? So therefore, we should say what? Java is object-oriented programming language. So Java is a true OOP. Main also resides in class. And main is your entry point. The execution start with main, execution complete with main. So that main is also put within the class. You understanding? Some object-oriented programming like C++. in that main is not in the class, you have to write outside. You understanding? Okay, I hope you are clear with it. So Java is true object oriented programming language, and Java themselves also have created, that is Sun people, Sun Microsystem, they have created hundreds of ready-made classes, and so many classes they have already developed that the life of the programmer becomes easy, because programmer doesn't have to develop all that things. Getting on? Nowadays, if there is a birthday party, clear, at home, so it's very easy. You can just order on Zomato or Swiggy, and the order comes. You have to just open the parcel and do the party. Getting? But just 10-15 years back, it was not that good. Mom, partially she used to purchase and partially she used to make. And before that, our age moms, like, they used to make everything from scratch for the birthday party. Like for the birthday party, if there is simple idli chutney also, so the batter of that idli also she used to make on her own. Getting? Then middle age, as I said, they used to bring the batter from the market and only preparation of idli they do. And now the smart moms, they just order on the Swiggy, the parcel come and the party is done at home. So that is the concept. So here what they have done, they have created abundant of classes already. And that classes, they have grouped it into packages. Okay. Now you can remember package corresponds to a folder. Correct? One folder, one package. We are also going to learn, it's there in your top syllabus, creating your own packages, then how to import that packages. Okay, we'll learn, don't worry. So what this Sun people have done, they have created hundreds of classes. Means ready-made stack class is there, queue class is there, linked list class is there, tree class is there. And last year you have implemented tree and stack and queue. Your ready-made classes they have made. Your job is just to create the object of that class and access the functions. Don't worry. Getting? Already linked list class, and not only that, many time class, date class. If you want to create GUI, so there is a window class, a button class, text box class, checkbox class, everything for font, for color, for each and everything classes are made. You understanding? And now if these classes are kept at one place only, it will be difficult for loading, it will be difficult for searching. Therefore, they have categorized it into packages. Get it? So in this package, there will be related classes, right? If this is a Lang package, so it will have some classes. If it is a IO package, so it will have related classes like reader, writer, and whatever. Then if it is abstract window toolkit, so it will have button, text box, radio button. These are packages. Packages means what? Folders. Getting? And now they belong to some federal folder, super main folder called as Java folder. So Java will be a main folder, then these are the subfolders. In that there are hundreds of classes, and what programmers will do? Use these classes by creating objects. But the programmers who are going to use these classes, they are not having any knowledge about what data is there within it and how the data is getting processed. They are just taking the benefit of it by calling the methods. They call the method, but they don't know what is there inside that method. The algorithm inside that method is not known to the programmer who is using it. Clear to you? I hope it is clear. Okay. See here, all Java programs code and data will reside within the class only. In Java, whenever you'll write any program, you'll not write a single line code outside class. Okay. Everything you have to write within a class. See, class, class name, your data, your methods, and even what? Main. Methods means, you know, no? Methods means functions in which you'll write logic, in which this data will be getting what? Accessed or manipulated. And I said Java itself has provided you with an abundant number of what? Classes. Hundreds of classes. But all that classes they have given it in a very organized way, very systematic way. What they have done, they have kept all that classes in packages. Package means what? A folder. And within that folder, there will be group of classes. And your work is smartly use those classes and don't waste your time in developing the same thing again. Getting? Like in your project, if you are implementing a library management system and in that you need a waiting list for book. So waiting list means it's a queue. So don't waste your time in developing a queue. Ready-made queue some people have developed. You just create an object of that queue and call their methods. Push method, pop method. Getting or no? So which you can use in your program by creating objects. As an example, Java is a main folder, then there are subfolders, and in that subfolder there are related classes. Like in lang package there are class string, class math, class system, like util. So in that you will have linked list class, stack class, queue class, priority queue. So many are there. Set classes, set class also are there. So all that are here. IO, so everything related to file handling and keyboard handling. So there are reader, writer, and so many. AWT, so GUI programming, so for button, then color, then font, all that. And these all classes are ready-made developed by those people. It is your intelligence using these classes smartly in your program. But when you are using, you are just taking the benefit of it. You are not knowing what is implemented within it. It is abstract to you people. Getting? So I hope this feature is clear to you guys. Right? Okay? Yes or no? Just at least confirmation in the chat window. Okay, good, very good. Now in the next session, 2-3 more features are there. Like Java is robust and secure. So we'll talk about that and then we'll start with first Java program. Okay, so in the first Java program, then how to use different utilities. I'll tell you like Java compiler, Java interpreter. I'll tell you, then I'll show you how to install Java in your Windows system. Okay, and then gradually we'll start with the programming journey, right? Programming journey like basic things, operators, data type, keywords, all that one by one. Okay guys, okay? Okay. We will be learning about packages. Don't worry, Pratik. I'll show you how to create our own package, how to import that package. Okay? Just your task is to attend the sessions. Everything, whatever is possible from my side, I'll try to deliver to you people. Okay? So for today, we'll stop all of you. Thank you all of you. Please take care.